Good afternoon, everyone. It's Hanifa Menon from hearthealthbrainhealth.com, encouraging healthy grieving and mindful actions. Today, my contemplative time this morning has been all about families and the impact of families on our spiritual evolution and how it can be very helpful or not very helpful. And all of that depends on our own minds, and it's each individual's minds that creates this evolutionary experience for ourselves. And then being able to understand our own evolution helps us further. So I thought I'd start with the first quotation that I came across, and it's by Gilbert K. Chesterton. And this quotation says, "Family is the theater of the spiritual drama, the place where things happen, especially the things that matter." So this is interesting. So again, I'll read it again. It says, "Family is the theater of the spiritual drama, this place where things happen, especially the things that matter." This is interesting, right? Because we all know the drama of our own families. So whether there's um, members of the family that aren't speaking with each other, members that are certain personalities in the family, and soon a family starts understanding or at least making judgments about each other within even a very small family. And it's so interesting because let's say a parent is judging a child, like that child is so not easy, or that child is so lucky. Either way, right? So let's say someone's thinking that their child is really not easy. So they might say difficult or a hard child to understand or to work with or to get through to, or that sort of idea. And the other aspect is that child is so lucky. Now, either one of those things are judgments, right? Now, when we're thinking about those children now, we can think this child is so difficult is one perspective of the difficult, let's say, not easy child. And what is the experience for the child? The child feels this is who the child is and feels pretty easy. So when is receiving that feedback of that's not an easy child, there's some confusion in the child's own mind too, right? Of how is that making sense to them? Because for anyone who's going through their own experience, it feels very easy or normal for them, right? But when they can feel the energy of judgment, it's not so comfortable. The same thing is happening even when a parent or family member is saying that that child is so lucky, like everything always just lines up for them. Same thing, because I don't believe that any adult has ever felt like they've had an easy life. And I quite honestly don't feel that any child does either. So we put in our work, we put in some hard work to get to certain places. And yes, we have assistance and guidance, and luck does play a little bit of part in it. At the same time, it really minimizes the child's experience when a family member is saying that person's just so lucky, right? And that can happen at any age, right? So a coworker can say that coworker is so lucky, and it really minimizes the work that that coworker is doing. And this is what I wanted to bring our attention to, that oftentimes whatever we have experienced in our families, we will then apply to the rest of our lives. So we can easily think about how this can be applied in terms of relationships. So if someone has felt like they're very lucky and that's how their family has always referred to them, yeah, even their relationship, it'll feel like, well, I'm just pretty lucky, so I get good people in my life, right? So that sort of idea. And another person who feels that they're very not easy is in a relationship, and when things are not easy, they might take the blame on themselves and say, well, apparently I'm not very easy. So that sort of idea. And it's only when we start understanding how is it that we've trained ourselves, how is it that people around us, consciously and not consciously, have trained us, and then how do we feel today, is the real understanding that comes through, right? So sometimes, many times, kids grow up using the exact same patterns on the people that they love. So exact same patterns in the relationships that they get in when they're dating in whatever ages, usually teens, and they get into the same patterns even in their workplaces. So either they look at everyone else as lucky, or everyone else is difficult or not easy, or that sort of idea. So it's very, very similar patterns until we start understanding how we're thinking ourselves. And of course, they come back to their own families and they feel the same energies. They feel perhaps not understood, right? Because whether they were referred to as not easy or difficult, or whether they were referred to as really lucky, they haven't felt understood in those experiences, right? So, really important for us to understand this. And then it's about understanding how we now use this energy to affect our life differently. So, I thought I'd finish with this quotation to give you something to think about in all of this. This quotation is by Lori Deschene, and this quotation says, "Be the person who breaks the cycle. If you were judged, choose understanding. If you were rejected, choose acceptance. If you were shamed, choose compassion. Be the person you needed when you were hurting, not the person who hurt you. Vow to be better than what broke you. Vow to be than what broke you, to heal instead of becoming bitter, so that you can act from your heart, not your pain." That was a lot of information in one quotation, so I'm going to read it one more time, especially since I stumbled halfway through there. So this says, "Be the person who breaks the cycle. If you were judged, choose understanding. If you were rejected, choose acceptance. If you were shamed, choose compassion. Be the person you needed when you were hurting, not the person who hurt you. Vow to be better than what broke you, to heal instead of becoming bitter, so you can act from your heart, not your pain." And do you understand that? So, what will often happen is it's often very easy to see that if this is a place that I've been hurt, if a sister has spoken not well to me, I can speak not well to her, right? Because that's how she has spoken to me. And now I'm going to be very direct with her too. And this is where we need to break these patterns because, yes, definitely break it in the rest of our life experiences too. Otherwise, we become the starter of that pattern that we're still carrying. But let's say the sister who has not spoken well with me, I instinctively feel like not speaking well with her. And honestly, come from that understanding space. So the space that your sister may not have understood you from, perhaps it's a space that you can understand another person from. Perhaps a brother has not understood you. Perhaps a parent has not understood you. This is the time to show that you can be understanding. And what's interesting about this is that when someone is not understanding, or someone is rejecting, or someone is um, hurting another person, that energy comes through that person first and then affects the other person. So whether the thoughts are there, whether the words are there, whether the actions are there, it comes through the body of the person before it affects the other person. And you will see that oftentimes people who are doing this, not consciously especially, but even people who do this consciously because they feel they're right, will feel the effects, whether in their mind, whether in their body, whether in their life experience. It is felt and it's not a comfortable spot. And then they push that energy onto another person, and the other person, so let's say the sibling, takes on this energy and feels like reacting the same way because now partly they've got that energy, but part of that energy is already in them in their thoughts or their words or their experience of hurt themselves. So they want to use the exact same energy back. And this is what has affected our entire society. If you think about this sort of energy, this is what's happened, that someone has thought not well of another and another person has thought not well of the other again. So it's gone back and forth. The same energy just keeps being played with. If we are creating the energy we would like to see in the world, we need to start with ourselves rather than looking at, well, they shouldn't have said that to me. It's what can I say and truly and authentically mean it? Or what can I think with true compassion, integrity, love, sincerity, authenticity, all of that, where we can literally think of this is the uneasy space that the other person is in. This is the easy energy that I'm in. This is how I spread energy in this world. So, this is what I'd love for you to think about for the next 5 minutes and see. Think about one person that's close to you that perhaps you've had not such an easy experience with, and think about how do you think about that? Because even if you're judging them of they've never been easy and I know it, or there was a time they were easy, but they're just not like that anymore. Go back to the time that they were easy because likely they haven't changed. But your perception has changed. And you could be totally justified in your changed perception, but unless you today choose to change it back to something that is more beneficial, you won't benefit yourself or the person that you're thinking about. So I leave you with that thought today. I wish you a fabulous day ahead, and I hope you remember, transform your mind and transform your life. Have a great day, everyone.